Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. How do you feel today? Do you feel awake? Do you feel more in sync with the way things ought to be or should be or are? Do you feel like you have moved forward in any way or shape? You know, I remember one time on a Sunday like this back in 1999, I believe it was. I'm sure it was. It was in 1999, meeting at the little round building, the church over Unity of Fairfax. I had decided that I would take a little vacation and go back and take care of some business that I had left undone back because I was a new minister in Fairfax. And I had decided to go back and take care of some business that I had left undone in the rush to move back in Tennessee. So I headed back that way, and I had gotten a minister from, let's see, where was he from? I believe he was from Fauquier County, and he had agreed to come back there to Fairfax and do the service on that day. What he had not agreed in his mind to do was to move his clock forward. And of course, I was gone. I was out driving away, and I was sitting there thinking, well, church is just about to begin. I wonder how he's enjoying himself. Is everything going good? Do people like the talk he's doing? When I got back, I heard that he showed up an hour late. And there were two services, and someone in the congregation had to jump up and do an on the spot talk, which everybody enjoyed very much. So all was in divine order. It worked out just fine, except the embarrassment on this poor guy's face. And I can't remember his name. It was an Italian name. Many of you may remember who he was, Orizio or something like that. And he was a Unity minister, and he lived out there in Fauquier County. Uh, but it was a laugh, an embarrassing laugh for him, but a good thing for everyone else because the lady that jumped up and did the talk did a tremendous job, so it worked out fine. That's what happens when we don't realize that it is time for us to spring forward. I remember getting confused with daylight savings time and not knowing how to remember do I set my clock back or do I set it forward? Every time it was supposed to happen, I knew that something was supposed to happen, but I wasn't sure how to do that. And it was a minister who taught me the little phrase, spring forward, fall back. That's an easy one to remember, and I got it the first time he said it. But he did that because there were many others in the congregation at that time that I was in who said they thought that was confusing. That was a long time ago that anything like that could be confusing, though. And it may be that this is the last time that we have to go through this type of springing forward and falling back. It seems to some people to say, hey, let's just leave things the way they are. Let's go back to standard time and just let that ride. Some people don't like that idea. They like the idea of springing forward because then 8 o'clock in the morning comes where it used to be 7 o'clock in the morning. And so sunlight starts creeping into the day a little faster for those who are working or doing other things, for any of us actually. And and there is one extra hour at the end of the day, which seems to be really good for a lot of people because when they do get off of work at 3:30 or 4 or 5 or whenever it is, there's still time to do other things while the sun is still shining. I like it a lot because it makes Barbecuing on the grill much easier. I don't have to do it with a flashlight in my hand or stuck on the top of my head, and that's pretty nice. And the hamburgers or the steaks or whatever I'm grilling actually get a chance to be done to my liking or to everyone's liking, because I'm not doing it all by sound or touch or guessing. It works out really fine. That's one of the wonderful things about the daylight savings time. I have mentioned this before, but some of you may have forgotten or didn't hear it ever. But there was a lady who wrote into her weatherman in some city and complained about daylight savings time because she felt like her flowers would get too much light having that extra hour of daylight. And that it would really mess up things. It does mess up things actually for chickens and other birds. They are confused about when is it time to go to sleep, because their little watches that they wear, it's hard for them to wind them forward or back. Little joke there. Now, it doesn't bother the birds whatsoever, but some people did think, that my chickens will be confused and so forth. No, they're not confused whatsoever. If you really think about it, this idea that we have of moving time forward or moving time backward is not unusual. It's done by decree and has been this way forever. When when the daylight time begins, when the working time begins, is decided by the owner or of a particular field or business. And if he wants his workers to suddenly, if he says we're getting a lot of business here at let's say a bakery, we're getting a lot of business, so I want you, instead of coming in at the usual hour, I want you to come in an hour early, and I want you to work an hour late. Well, if you want to keep that job, that's what you do. You readjust your time system to be able to, and he's going to pay you for this, but he's changed this time because he needs more loaves of bread ready in the morning, whatever it might be. It's easy for us to make these adjustments if we are aware. If we are not aware, we resist it. And resistance comes from not being aware of that which is ours to do. Speaking of ours to do, I want to read you this little quote from one of our co-founders in Unity, Charles Fillmore. He wrote this in his 94th year. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm as I spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm. He's 94 years old, folks. 94 years old. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm as I spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. I think we could all put that in our minds and in our hearts and hold that as an idea and a way to look at life, an awareness of life. Moving forward through life is inevitable. Now, we can do it one of two ways. We can do it this way with a mighty faith and sizzle with zeal as we move through life, or we can be drugged through life kicking and screaming all the way. I know, and I will admit, that there has been a large part of my time in my life where if things weren't going the way that I thought they ought to be going, I really put up a fight in going forth with my life, in moving forward, in springing forward. It was tough. But then I finally realized that if you want to be a part of a system, You have to obey the rules of the system, whatever it might be. That doesn't mean that we are enslaved to it. It means that we have agreed to be a part of it, whatever that might be. Now, I'm not talking about politics. I'm not talking about anything like that or a militaristic view. I'm talking about within ourselves, deep within ourselves. We have a master who is listening and waiting at all times for us to become who we truly are. If we want to fight it, if we want to have a disagreement about who we are or who we think we are, we can really have a tough time. If we can align ourselves with the truth of our being, then suddenly doors are opened. You know, the Bible teaches us to ask and it shall be given. All can be given to us. Knock and the door will open. But if we are sitting there waiting for the door to open, whining and whining, then the door does not open. We do not move forward through life. So this simple thing that we have of changing our clocks by 1 hour finally can become something that we look forward to, as opposed to being in a backward mode, which holds us in place, in a place where we are not moving in any direction that helps us. One of the things that has occurred to me in life, and I'm sure that it's happened to each one of you too at some point, is that we have felt like we knew the answer to something, and at the same time, we were afraid or reticent to speak, to let that be known that we know. See, that is a part of moving forward, is to hold your hand up in class and give the answer that is required, or to say to someone who has just made an offensive remark, hey, think through what you just said. Be in a place, will you please, where you are not offensive to me or to others. I know in my life I spent a lot of time here in this part of the region of the United States. And I decided at one point to go back to my home state of Oklahoma, and I would, at that place in my life, start a new Unity church. And so that's what I did. I moved back to Oklahoma. I went to Norman, Oklahoma, which is the city where the University of Oklahoma is. And I thought, well, I'll go here, and probably that is probably the most progressive or liberal, if you will, place where people would actually be interested in the thoughts and ideas and tools of unity. Here's what I found out. I was there less than 3 weeks, and I had heard people use derogatory remarks, which you all have heard before, about people of a different race. I heard these things being spoken out loud, and I was shocked. I thought that we were over with that. I didn't think people still did that sort of thing. Well, how naive I was. There I was in this place, and I at first held that thought and that feeling inside of me. And after a while, after hearing it for about the third or fourth time, I finally turned to my friend or whoever it was who was talking to me and said, you need to drop that from your vocabulary. What? That remark you just made about people of color. You need to drop that. Why? You're not part of that. I can speak to you that way, can't I? Nope, you can't. Not any longer. That doesn't mean we can't be friends. That doesn't mean it. Just drop that from your vocabulary, will you please? And that person was chagrined and said, well, okay, whatever you think. And use that great word that I just spoke, which I call a part of an entire generation. Whatever. Whatever is a way to stay in the place you already are and refuse to move out of that place. I think I've heard that word so many times from younger people that I call them the whatever generation. First, I called them the me generation. And then I realized, no, I come from the me generation. It's all about me. The generation afterward, a couple of generations afterward, not my children, but my grandchildren, have grown up and used that word to eliminate whatever argument there might be by just saying, well, whatever you think, whatever you want to believe. I once went up to a girl who was a cashier at, I don't remember what store it was, Target or something. And I was paying for something, and she said, that'll be $14.92. And I said, hey, that was a really popular year at one time, wasn't it? Silence. Crickets. And I said, do you not know Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492? You didn't learn that in school? And she looked at me blankly and just said, whatever. I was amazed. I've been amazed by a lot of things, but who needs to move forward in this case? Well, both of us, but definitely me, because I was aware. She wasn't, and I should just allow her to be. I didn't make any great judgment over it, but I did get a chuckle out of it, out of the whole thing. And I realized that it requires awareness to truly move forward. An awareness of mind and awareness of being to move forward. My friend who was still using remarks, he's still my friend, but I'm hoping he heard my voice. I'm hoping some of these other people who were using that, who got to hear me say, why don't you remove that from your vocabulary? I didn't make them wrong. I didn't say to them that they ought to change their minds or that I was better than them or anything else. I just left them with an idea that might help them move forward. The girl who didn't recognize 1492, I'm not her teacher. Someone taught me that, and I'm very glad they did, but I'm not her teacher. I'm just the person who happened to be standing in front of her, getting ready to pay for my merchandise. That's the awareness for me. Be who you are right now in the moment that you are in. Be who you are and who you will become as you move forward. So this is a day for us to move forward. Change our clocks. But at the same time, we can change our minds. Oh, by the way, also change the batteries in your smoke detectors. That's another thing that we are required to do. And it's a good thing to do. And speaking of smoking, change and don't smoke anymore if you are a smoker. I think that comes at a different time of the year, but why not have an awareness of it? Why not move forward? Why not become a health machine as opposed to an unhealth machine? That's who we are. We are organic machines. We have a computer inside our head that computes so fast and does so many things all at the same time that it allows us to know how to walk. That takes a lot of computations that we don't even think about, but we learned them at some point. To talk, to be able to hear and understand these sounds that we are making and other people are making, not just maybe in one language, but like Natasha, 3 languages. I'm just amazed. I'm amazed that anyone can learn another language.
2.5.
Just doesn't work for me. She's saying 2.5 behind me. 2.5, and which is the half?
English.
English. She says English is the half that she learns, but I think she does a great job. And she doesn't use the word whatever. She moves forward always. I don't correct a word, and she leans over and says whatever. No, she says, say that again. I want to know the word. Moving forward through life, moving forward through 1 hour, moving forward through 1 minute, 1 second, 1 moment, one now to the next now. Now, 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 as we hear in Let There Be Peace on Earth. Let this be the moment now, right now. Now, 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 in this now, yes. Moving forward, always moving forward. To do this, we must be open, directed, connected. Allow this to be who you are and who you are becoming. God bless.